Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I am doing a reading for 12 hours straight vlog. I had a totally different video planned for today. I even filmed it. But before I got to the part of editing it and getting it ready to post, I had the most serendipitous idea ever. Today, my husband took the boys to go to Hershey Park in Pennsylvania with his brother and the boys' cousins. And so they're going to have a marvelous day at Hershey Park. I opted not to go because my sister-in-law wasn't going to be there and I don't really ride big roller coasters. Like I have my limit as far as roller coasters. Also, it promises to be the beginning of a heat wave today, so I don't do well in the heat. And standing outside in the sun for hours, waiting for a turn on a ride that I'm not really enjoying is really not my idea of fun, personally. And since no one was going that I would be able to just hang out with and chat while everybody else went on the rides, I opted out of that little adventure. So here I am at home all day, and I have the day off of child rearing, which is, you know, a nice extra little rest. And I decided to give myself also the day off of cleaning and organizing, which is what I have largely been doing this summer. Child rearing, cleaning, and decluttering. Let's have them all start with the same letter. What is that called? The word is not there. Alliterate. Let's alliterate. That has been my summer. Child rearing, cleaning, and decluttering. Anyways, it's been wonderful, but today is my day off of all of that. And what's a girl gonna do on her day off of all of the responsibilities in her life? Why, read, of course. So from 9 o'clock this morning until 9 o'clock this night, I will be reading. Now, I will take some breaks because, you know, even your girl here can't read that long without a break. One break may be a substantial break. I may walk to a thrift store that's near here just to go out and get some sun and some exercise. We'll see. But I am going to read as much as I possibly can. I started out this morning with reading on the deck in the beautiful morning sun before it gets too hot, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I was reading my devotions. For my devotions, I read One Day at a Time by Kyle Idleman, which is about challenging yourself to really look and see the needs of the people around you and to learn to care for them and see them as Jesus saw them. And I'm really enjoying the challenges each day in that devotion. The problem is it's summer, so I don't see many people besides my family. So it's a little bit hard to do some of the challenges because I don't actually see people, but it is very, it's a good book. And then I'm also reading How to Study Your Bible by Kate Arthur, which I'm doing in conjunction with studying the Bible, and I'm studying the book of Colossians currently using her method. So then I took a little break and watered my plants. And now here I am. I'm about to resume reading. But first I'm going to share with you my goals. I have some specific goals in mind for the day, and I think that with the amount of time that I have at my hands, I should easily be able to accomplish them and then some, but these are just minimum goals that I have. First of all, in books that I have been working on for a while, And the Dead Shall Rise, I'm currently reading a very long chapter that I already started called Prosecution. It's chapter 10. And it is about, and it's 70 pages long, and it is about the scenes in the courtroom where the trial is taking place. And it's very interesting. It's not just the transcripts. It's, you know, the author is narrating what has happened, telling, you know, about it, and including periodically actual transcripts from the trial. So it's very interesting how the trial is progressing in the case of this crime. But I think I have about 50 more pages to go in the chapter. So I want to finish chapter 10 in that book. That is And the Dead Shall Rise by Steve Oney. I always forget to say the name of the book. And then Les Miserables, I have been reading for a couple months now. And I am almost finished with book 3. And again, I have about 50-ish pages left in volume 3. I guess he calls it volume 3. In volume 3. So I would like to get to the end of volume 3 today. And then there are 2 volumes left in that one. And then in Paradise Lost by John Milton, I have read the first book. This one is divided into books. I've read the first book and a part of the second one. Altogether, there are 7 books. So I'm not super far in that, but I want to read all the way through the second book of this today. I am also doing a couple buddy reads. So I'm reading The Heir of Redclyffe with Miriam. And I don't have really actually very specific goals for that one. I think I'm technically at like 46 or 47% in that book. So I want to get 50% is like a good benchmark. And I think that would bring me to like chapter 22 or something like that. So, or somewhere around there. So yeah, aiming to get about halfway through that book. And then I'm reading The Vanishing at Castle Moreau with Lindsay, and I would like to finish that today because I'm at 60% or further. I think I got a little further than that last night. So I would like to, actually, I think I'm like 80%. So I want to finish that book and be able to check it off my list. And I also am reading The Recorder by Kathy McCrum and kind of retroactively interacting with the Protagonist Pub's book club because they read that, I believe, in March or May. They read it recently. So anyways, I am retroactively interacting there in that Discord channel. And I am really enjoying it, but I'm only about 4 chapters in. So I don't have a specific goal in mind with that one. Part of me kind of wants to finish it today, but we'll see if I get to that or if I want to spend a little more time on one of these other books to get a little further to being able to mark them as read. Because I realized, guys, that I am failing. I'm utterly failing at my reading life in June. I have only read 1 book that qualifies for the historical fiction reading challenge, which I really wanted to read a lot of historical fiction, but so far I've only read 1. And The Vanishing at Castle Moreau, while it has a historical element, I'm not sure that qualifies for any of the prompts. I have to think about that. I don't know how well I'm doing with that. Well, that is to say, I know how well I'm doing, and that is horribly. I'm doing horribly. And I also am not doing so great with the summer book bingo by Beautiful Minutia. So I need to make some progress on some of these books. Some of these books can't even count for that because I started them well before June. And I need to get some books marked off that list. So Recorder would work for that. And let me see. I think that The Vanishing at Castle Moreau would work for that as well. I believe we started that in June. And so I need to finish those 2. And I think Children of the Stars that I read as a buddy read and finished earlier this week would count. I put that as the traveling prompt on there. I put it in that space. So I have made like little baby steps, but there's ways to go. So I am using this day at home by myself to get a lot of reading done with maybe some breaks, and I'm really excited about it. So I am going to go settle into my cozy nook and get busy reading. So I'm in my cozy little reading nook with my cup of coffee, and we're gonna start with Les Mis. And I am reading until volume 3 is done because that has been my goal for like 3 weeks now. And by George, it's happening today. It is a little after 11 and I have finished goal number 1, which was to finish volume 3 of Les Miserables. Let's be honest, for the majority of my adult life, I have interacted much more with the musical version of this story than I have the actual book version. So even though while I know the basic structure of what happens, I have forgotten many of the details that are in this book. So, and there are plenty of details in this book, let me tell you. Victor Hugo did not skimp on the details here. But what I really have appreciated a lot in volume 3 was the background that he gives to Marius, who is a bit of a shallow character in the musical. The musical focuses rightly on the person of Jean Valjean and his nemesis Javert, which is good because the story is largely about them. But Marius comes across as a little bit impetuous, youthful, and frankly, not very smart, just very emotional and passionate. And he is emotional and passionate and a bit impetuous. And all of that is true, but Victor Hugo does give him a lot more depth of character. And in the part that I was just reading, you really start to become much more invested in him as a person, and you see much more of the depth of character that he actually has, and makes him a lot more of an interesting person. So if you've only ever seen the musical and you thought Marius was kind of, you know, meh as a person, there's a lot more to him when you read the actual book. I love how Victor Hugo weaves together the various characters in his story and their interactions, and he has a lot of different people in the story, but he is very slowly but surely weaving all of their threads together into one big, compelling overall story that he is telling. So definitely worth reading, and I'm enjoying it. And I only have 500 some pages to go. Totally getting somewhere here. And now for And the Dead Shall Rise. So I have, let me see, page 210. And I need to read to 261. So I have about 50 pages to read in here. So about the same, maybe a little less than I read in Les Mis. So after that, I will probably take a break for some lunch. So I'm going to continue on with the prosecution. So this trial is taking place in July 28th in Atlanta. And this is in the early 1900s, so before air conditioning was really developed. But there was some kind of machine called ozonators that they had installed in the courtroom, and that they had boasted would make it so that nobody noticed the heat. But I think this was funny how the author described the situation. He said, the trial's atmosphere would now grow more heated in every sense of the word, for, as by this juncture was apparent, the much heralded ozonators were a bust. On Tuesday, the temperature inside the courtroom had reached 91 degrees. Can you imagine? Consequently, Wednesday found spectators falling back on an older but more reliable technology, the handheld fan. So I'm reading, and it says, whatever good blacks seemed to have done the state's case, within 30 seconds, Luther Rosser, who was the defendant's attorney, was ripping away the integument of expertise and probity in which the man cloaked himself, and exposing the sinew of incompetence and deceit that many believed constituted the inner fiber of the entire Atlanta Police Department. That word, integument, I had never heard that word before. Any idea what it means? I had to look it up. And it means the tough outer protective layer, and it usually refers to an animal, but yeah, new word. Here's another word, pettifoggery, which means a quarrel about petty points. I think that's a good word to have on hand. Might be useful on occasion. So I ate my lunch, but I didn't actually take a break from reading, because who does that? Duh, I read while I was eating. And I read The Heir of Redclyffe, and I finished a chapter, so I am 50% of the way through that book. I'm starting to get a little more invested in the story. It took me a really long time. It started out as kind of what seemed like a slice of life, like a lot of family scenes and a lot of Victorian type moralizing, conversations about child rearing and education, etc., all of that kind of stuff. And then, so it took me a while to get into it, and I was not really loving it at all. But the author, Charlotte Mary Young, takes her time to build up her characters so that you get to know them and get to know who they are and their backstories and what's going on in their lives and the There's a lot of subtlety in the plot in this one, so it takes a long time to build up the relationships between the different people and what makes them tick, their flaws and weaknesses that are what the plot hinge on. So, yeah, I can see why she did that, but it is a little bit of a slog to read, to be perfectly honest. I know a lot of people who have read it loved it, but for me, it has been a bit of a slog. But I enjoyed this chapter. It was very introspective. Our main character, Guy is his name. He is home from school on Christmas break. By school, I mean like university. He's about to come into his majority in a couple of months. So he's like 20 years old. And he is very lonesome. The Guardian's family that he had spent the first half of the book with, that he loved very much, has kind of been turned on him unfairly. They don't realize that. Some of them still are supportive of him, but they think that he's done something wrong, which he was falsely accused. So anyway, he is very alone during this Christmas season. And so it's very introspective in him, you know, grappling with various things and dealing with his various emotions that he's got going on. But on top of that, he's realizing that has been some mismanagement at the state that he is going to inherit when he comes into his majority in a few months. So he begins to take some steps, some active steps to remedy some of those things. So I really do want to take a walk to the thrift store, but I want my phone to charge fully, which is why I'm sitting here, because my phone is charging. I want my phone to charge fully, so I'm going to let it do that. I think next I will read a little bit from my Kindle in The Vanishing at Castle Moreau and see if I can actually like finish a book. That's the goal here today. So far, I've made progress in 3 books, but I'm still, the farthest I am is like 55% through any of them. And so I need to actually finish a book. So The Vanishing of Castle Moreau is up next, and here's to finishing that one. All right, I finished a book. Yes, finally. I finished The Vanishing at Castle Moreau, and wow, that was a good book. It ranks up there as one of my favorites by Jamie Jo Wright, for sure. It's actually maybe not as creepy as some of hers. There is a creepy element to it, and there are like missing persons and this gothic kind of castle that is randomly set in the middle of Minnesota, I think. But it's not super creepy in spite of all of that. Just like in, you know, any good Gothic story, the things that seem at first to be, you know, supernatural and or terrifying are not as terrifying as they seem in reality. And I really loved the conclusion of this one. It may be a little far-fetched, but I loved the whole idea of it. And I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I really loved the conclusion of the matter. And the whole way through, I was saying to Lindsay as we were reading this, I was like, how is she going to resolve this, what she has set up, in a way that's not like supernatural or weird? And she manages to do it, and I love how she does it. It's, like I said, far-fetched, you know, but that's why we read fiction, right? To escape reality on occasion. So, I really enjoyed it overall. It was, I'm going to say 4.5 stars, not quite 5 stars for me. I have been saying this a lot lately, so maybe I'm starting to change. I don't know. Normally in a dual timeline, I prefer the historical timeline. But this time I much preferred the contemporary storyline. The characters there were just more relatable and more believable. And there was a little bit more of a dry wit and humor in the narration in the contemporary storyline that I don't always see in Jamie Jo Wright's books, but I see in her personality, and I really enjoyed it in reading it. One thing I did enjoy about the historic timeline is the main character there was an author who writes like horror Gothic stories, and I felt like Jamie Jo Wright was inserting herself into the story a little bit in a way, and so I thought that was kind of fun. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. It was a great read. I am now going to take my walk. I think my phone is charged enough. It's like 90% or something. So I'm going to take my walk to the thrift store, but I'm not going to stop reading. I am reading Recorder, and I found that the library has the audiobook. So I downloaded the audiobook, so I'm going to listen to that on my walk and keep the reading going. And that means even when I get home, I can maybe do a little bit of light housekeeping while I'm still reading, if I feel like it. I mean, let's not get crazy here. So I'm going to take a cue from Jay at Faceless Book Reviews and talk while I walk here on my way back home after my little jaunt. I listened to Recorder until my headphones died, sadly, and I got, I don't know, maybe about a third of the way through, enjoying the story very much. It's sci-fi, which is not my usual thing, but I like the focus on the main character, who is the titular recorder, and there's a little bit of mystery, I think, surrounding her background. Seems to be developing there, and there's a lot of interesting thematic material developing here, which was one reason why I was so interested to read it. A lot about what it means to be human, and the role that emotions play in our humanity, and also a little bit about the overreach of government oversight, aka Big Brother sort of things. All very intriguing and interesting. There was also a run-in with something that I discovered was much worse than ROUS's. If you know, you know. So, anyways, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to maybe have a little snack. I was dying of thirst, so I picked up an unsweetened iced tea on my way back. So now my thirst is quenched, but I might have a little snack, then I'm going to sit down and read from my ebook copy of Recorder. So I'm home, all comfy, got my snacks, and got my Kindle, so let's read. So it is 20 of 7. I have 2 more hours of my reading spree, and I am deep into Recorder and enjoying it very much. About 150 pages in, which I guess puts me 40% of the way through. So I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it today, but definitely going to make significant progress before I have to sign off this video and get everything uploaded. But definitely enjoying it. It's kind of hard to talk about without spoiling anything, really. So yeah, can't say much about it. Right now I'm taking a break from reading to fix myself a little basic breakfast for dinner. Got some scrambled eggs and a waffle I had made earlier in the week that was in the freezer, and now I'm have it in the toaster. And yeah, that's gonna be my dinner, and then I'm gonna keep reading Recorder. So that's what's going on. Just wanted to pop in and give a quick little update for my vlog. So see ya soon. It is 9 o'clock at night, and so ends my 12 hours straight of reading. I am about 150 pages away from finishing Recorder, so hopefully I'll finish it tomorrow. And it'll make it to my weekly reading wrap-up, hopefully. But today was a very successful day overall. I accomplished all of my primary objectives, more or less. I finished volume 3 of Les Miserables. I finished the chapter I was reading in And the Dead Shall Rise. I finished the Vanishing at Castle Moreau, and I made significant progress in Recorder, although I didn't finish it. I just realized I did not read anything in Paradise Lost by John Milton, which I was sort of hoping to get to, but that's okay. I made good progress, did a lot of reading, even walked and got some exercise, so that's good. All in all, a successful day. So now I will upload all these videos and get it going, and let me know your thoughts on any of the books I read or any of the thoughts I had, and if you have ever been able to spend your whole day, more or less, reading, and how did it go? I feel like I should have read more somehow, but I'm still satisfied with my progress. So that's all for now. Talk to you next time. Bye.